Hi, this is Gay, and I'll be reading today's edition of the Cape Cod Times for Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. And we'll start with the weather like we always do. Today it'll be cloudy, windy, late in the afternoon, high temperature about 49 degrees, so it'll be a little bit warmer than it has been. Tonight you can expect it to be windy, mild, rain with a thunderstorm starting later, lows 45. On Thursday it'll be cloudy and breezy with a shower or two in the morning, high 51, low 28. Friday it'll be 42, mostly sunny but windy, lows in the evening 29. On Saturday, mostly sunny with a flurry around. It'll be a high of 43 and a low of 29. And on Sunday, we will have abundant sunshine, but it will be cooler. Only highs 42 and the low 31. The sun rose this morning at 6:09 a.m. and will set this evening at 5:36 p.m. That's 11 hours and 27 minutes of daylight. Now for the lottery numbers from the Mass State Lottery Tuesday's drawing. In the numbers game for Tuesday, March 4th, 2025, midday drawing numbers 8, 7, 7, 2. Again, that's 8, 7, 7, 2. Midday drawing for the numbers game for Tuesday, March 4th. The evening drawing for Tuesday, March 4th in the numbers game 5, 9, 6, 2. That's 5, 9, 6, 2. Evening drawing numbers for the numbers game for Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. Lucky for life numbers for Tuesday, March 4th 2, 11, 25, 30, 31, bonus number of 7. Again, that's 2, 11, 25, 30, 31, bonus number of 7. Lucky for life drawing for Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. In the mass cash drawing for Tuesday, March 4th, the numbers are 6, 11, 22, 28, 32. Again, that's 6, 11, 22, 28, 32. The numbers in the mass cash drawing for Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. And in the Mega Millions drawing for Tuesday, March 4th, the numbers are 14, 19, 47, 52, 70, bonus number of 6. Again, that's 14, 19, 47, 52, 70, and a bonus number of 6 in the Mega Millions drawing for Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. Now to the front page of the Cape Cod Times for Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. Our lead story today, checks and balances. More than 200 people protest Trump-Musk policies in Hyannis. By Denise Coffey, Cape Cod Times, USA Today Network, Hyannis. More than 200 protesters showed up at the Hyannis Rotary Tuesday, March 4th, with signs, flags, bullhorns, and drums to protest President Trump's actions in his first 6 weeks in office. Sponsored by the 4 Cape individual groups, Upper Cape, Lower Cape, Outer Cape, and Cape Cod Women for Change, the protest was called March 4th Against the Coup Creep. People stood with signs reading, "Uphold checks and balances. It's time for Doge to get out of Dodge," and "Trump and MAGA equal the Antichrist," and a host of other sentiments. Some held the American flag upside down as a sign of the country's distressed and constitutional crisis. A few older women sat on rolling walkers with seats by the Rotary's edge. One couple brought their dog. Cars passing within feet of the protesters honked their horns. Some gave the group's thumbs-up signs. "I'm not happy with Trump or Elon or any of the policies," said Pat Cruz of Hyannis. "I'm afraid we'll be annexed by Russia." Diane Rich called what Trump is doing a coup from the inside. Trump didn't run on eliminating the offices in charge of each independent agency, she said. Nobody voted for Elon Musk and his complete disregard and gutting of the government and this indiscriminate firing. The protest is one in a series of protests encouraged by the Individual Project, a national nonprofit. The Indivisible is a grassroots movement made up of separate groups across the United States, according to its website. Its mission is to elect progressive leaders, rebuild our democracy, and defeat the Trump agenda. The group claims that Trump's actions include raiding the Treasury, accessing citizens' personal data, and eliminating parts of the government by illegal means. Trump, not only happy, they're thrilled. The Elon Musk-led Department of Government Efficiency has fired tens of thousands of federal workers since Trump was sworn in earlier this year, according to USA Today. Trump has defended Musk's efforts, arguing it is seeking to downsize government by eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse. At his first cabinet meeting last week, Trump joked that aides should throw out any agency head dissatisfied with Musk's work. Some disagree a little bit, but I will tell you for the most part, I think everyone's not only happy, they're thrilled, Trump said. Many of Musk's firings have been met with lawsuits, as have other DOJ efforts to access sensitive personal information from agencies like the Department of Education and the Internal Revenue Service. The public is divided on the cuts, according to recent polling. A CBS News YouGov poll conducted February 26 through 28 found 51% approved of Trump's efforts to cut staff at government agencies and 49% disapproved. An NPR PBS News Marist poll from February 24 through 26 found 55% of respondents said the cuts were doing more harm than good, and 39% of respondents had a favorable opinion of Musk. A plan to change hearts and minds. Rich said the protests are slow, drawn-out plan to change the hearts and minds of legislators who support Trump, people who voted for him, and encourage them to push back against the president's agenda. It's an agenda no one voted for, Rich claims. He ran on bringing the economy down on day one, and he has not made any single effort to do that, she said. People were fooled. Republican legislators have faced their own protests at town halls held in their districts. Constituents have been angry about the federal program, funding, and staffing cuts. They have questioned the legitimacy of Elon Musk's position and his access to federal databases. Marie McHugh carried a pizza box with a message from her father, Richard McHugh, a retired National Security Agency spy. He's trying to save his beloved USA from becoming a Russian satellite, the message read. He wants people not to fall for the Putin propaganda. We like to believe that our protests will be enough for these people to do the right thing, Rich said. To get a handful of Republicans to see this is not what people want. An invitation to the protest on the internet reminded people not to engage in violence or with counter-protesters. In our next story, we're going to diverge a little bit and go to national news. Fellow citizens, American is back. Trump's address to Congress meet with cheers and jeers by Bo Erickson, Steve Holland, and Joseph Axe, Reuters. Washington. President Donald Trump took a victory lap in an address to Congress on Tuesday, drawing catcalls and interruptions from some Democratic lawmakers who held up signs and walked out mid-speech in protest. The partisan rancor was reflective of the tumult that has accompanied Trump's first 6 weeks in office, upending U.S. foreign policy, igniting a trade war with close allies, and slashing the federal workforce. The primetime speech, his first to Congress since taking office on January 20th, capped a second day of market turmoil after he imposed new tariffs against Mexico, Canada, and China. To my fellow citizens, American is back, Trump began to a standing ovation from fellow Republicans. Our country is on the verge of a comeback, the likes of which the world has never witnessed and perhaps will never witness again. Democrats held up signs with messages like "No King" and "This is not normal," and around 30 Democrats had walked out mid-speech less than an hour into Trump's remarks. Texas Representative Al Green was ordered removed after he refused to sit down. The chair now directs the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber, House Speaker Mike Johnson said after warning Democrats to maintain decorum. Green, a Democrat shaking his walking cane at Trump, appearing to be shouting that Trump did not win a mandate in November's election after the president bragged about the Republicans' victories. As he was led from the chamber, some Republicans heckled him. Trump appeared to revel in the disagreements. I look at the Democrats in front of me and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud, he said after Green's suggestion. Trump spoke in the House of Representatives where lawmakers huddled in fear for their lives a little over 4 years ago, while a mob of Trump supporters ransacked the Capitol in an unsuccessful effort to overturn Democrat Joe Biden's 2020 victory over the then-incumbent Trump. The president praised tech CEO Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency, which has downsized more than 100,000 federal workers, cut billions of dollars in foreign aid, and shuttered entire agencies. Trump credited Musk with identifying hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud, a claim that far exceeds even what the administration has claimed so far. CHIPS Act. Trump said lawmakers should get rid of a landmark 2022 bipartisan law to give $52.7 billion in subsidies for semiconductor chips manufacturing and production and the use of proceeds to pay debt. The CHIPS Act is a horrible, horrible thing. We give hundreds of billions of dollars and it doesn't mean a thing. They take our money and they don't spend it, Trump said in a speech to Congress. You should get rid of the CHIPS Act, and whatever is left over, Mr. Speaker, you should use it to reduce debt. The CHIPS and Science Law signed by Biden in August 2022 included $39 billion in subsidies for U.S. semiconductor manufacturing and related components, along with a $75 billion in government lending authority. More tariffs coming. Trump said he would impose reciprocal tariffs on April 2nd, a move that would likely roil financial markets even more. Other countries have used tariffs against us for decades, and now it's our turn to start using them against those other countries, he said. On this point, many Republicans remain seated, a signal of how Trump's tariffs have divided his party. Tax cuts. Trump urged Congress to extend his 2017 tax cuts. Congressional Republicans have advanced a sweeping $4.5 trillion plan that would extend the tax cuts, tighten border security, and fund a huge increase in deportations. The proposal calls for $2 trillion in spending reductions over a decade, with possible cuts to education, healthcare, and other social services. Republicans in 2017 argued that the tax cuts would pay for themselves by stimulating economic growth. But the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimates the changes increased the federal deficit by just under $1.9 trillion over a decade, even when including positive economic effects. In addition, Trump said his administration will create a new Office of Shipbuilding in the White House and offer new tax incentives for the sector. Michigan Senator Elissa Slotkin, a former CIA agent, delivered the Democratic Party's rebuttal. And First Lady Melania Trump was joined at the address by selected guests, including the family of Corey Compatore, a firefighter killed by the gunman who grazed the president with a bullet during a Pennsylvania campaign rally in July 2024. And in a related story, tariffs come into full force. Canadian Prime Minister calls fees very dumb thing to do, by David Lawler, David Lugengren, and Kylie Madry, Reuters, Washington. President Donald Trump's new 25% tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada took effect on Tuesday, along with a doubling of duties on Chinese goods to 20%, sparking trade wars that could slam economic growth and lift prices for Americans still smarting from years of high inflation. The tariff actions, which looked to upend nearly $2.2 trillion in annual trade, went live after Trump declared that the top 3 U.S. trading partners had failed to do enough to stem the flow of fentanyl and its precursor chemicals into the United States. Later on Tuesday, however, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick told Fox Business Network that Trump may work out a partial resolution with Canada and Mexico that could be announced on Wednesday. So I think he's going to work something out with them, Lutnick said of Trump. It's not going to be a pause, none of that pause stuff, but I think he's going to figure out, you do more and I'll meet you in the middle some way, and we're going to probably be announcing that tomorrow. Lutnick said he had spoken to Mexican and Canadian officials on Tuesday. One source told Reuters he had spoken with Canadian Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc. Lutnick said Trump was considering providing some relief to companies that comply with rules under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement on trade that is due for renegotiation in 2026. Trump is expected to tout his tariff agenda, his efforts to curb the fentanyl overdose crisis, and a Ukraine minerals deal during a nationally televised address to a joint session of Congress on Tuesday night. Retaliation starts. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau described the tariffs as a very dumb thing to do and hit back with 25% tariffs on $20.7 billion worth of U.S. imports, including orange juice, peanut butter, wine, spirits, beer, coffee, appliances, and motorcycles. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum took a softer approach, vowing retaliation but without details, saying she would announce Mexico's response on Sunday. Lutnick's comments lifted the Canadian dollar and the Mexican peso off of deep losses earlier on Tuesday, but Trump's tariffs prompted a global stock sell-off. Major U.S. indexes ended lower, with the tech-heavy NASDAQ veering into correction territory, while shares of automakers, home builders, retailers, and other tariff-sensitive firms all took hits. China responded immediately, announcing additional tariffs of 10 to 15% on certain U.S. imports from March 10th and a series of new export restrictions for designated U.S. entities. Later, it raised complaints about the U.S. tariffs with the World Trade Organization. Beyond the actions he announced on Tuesday, Trudeau said Canada would impose tariffs on another $86.8 billion of U.S. goods if Trump's tariffs were still in place in 21 days, likely to include motor vehicles, steel, aircraft, beef, and pork. Canada also will challenge the U.S. tariffs under rules to the WTO and the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement. They've chosen to launch a trade war that will, first and foremost, harm American families, Trudeau said of the Trump administration. This is a very dumb thing to do. Trudeau said Trump's fentanyl complaints were completely bogus justification for the tariffs, as Canada has taken every possible action to shut down fentanyl trafficking. Trudeau, who will see a Liberal Party successor elected this weekend, said that he believes Trump instead wants to weaken the Canadian economy to the point where Ottawa would consider annexation by the U.S. Ontario Premier Doug Ford tore up a $69.4 million contract with Elon Musk's Starlink network, banned U.S. firms from provincial government contracts, and said that if Trump's tariffs persist, he will apply a 25% surcharge to Ontario electricity exports to the U.S. Trump threatened to hike tariffs on Canadian goods even higher in an apparent reference to the U.S. plan to impose reciprocal tariffs on global trading partners on April 2nd. Please explain to Governor Trudeau of Canada that when he puts on a retaliatory tariff on the U.S., our reciprocal tariff will immediately increase by a like amount, Trump wrote in a post on his private social media platform. Price hikes. The tariffs were already sparking some U.S. price increases, running counter to Trump's election vow to bring down living costs for Americans. Target CEO Brian Cornell told CNBC that the retail giant would increase prices over the next couple of days on some seasonal grocery products such as avocados from Mexico. If there's a 25% tariff, those prices will go up, certainly over the next week, Cornell said. Electronics retailer Best Buy also warned of potential higher prices as the tariffs came into effect. Best Buy CEO Corey Barry told analysts on a call that China remains the top source of products sold by the company, with Mexico in second place. The 20% tariff on Chinese imports will apply to several key Chinese electronics categories untouched by prior duties, including smartphones, laptops, video game consoles, smartwatches, and speakers and Bluetooth devices. Barry said the price increases could play out over a longer period, as Best Buy typically carries about 6 weeks' worth of inventory. We estimate the tariffs could lead to a nearly $1,000 per household increase annually in the cost of goods, said Nationwide Mutual chief economist Kathy Bocjanczyk. The strengthening dollar helps mitigate some of the inflation impact, which would otherwise be greater. Stacking China tariffs. The extra 10% duty on Chinese goods adds a 10% tariff imposed by Trump on February 4th to punish Beijing over the fentanyl crisis, and comes on top of tariffs of up to 25% imposed on Chinese imports during Trump's first term. Tariffs on some of these products increased sharply under former President Joe Biden last year, including a doubling of duties on Chinese semiconductors to 50% and a quadrupling of tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles to more than 100%. China's retaliatory tariffs announced on Tuesday targeted a wide range of U.S. agricultural products, including certain meats, grains, cotton, fruit, vegetables, and dairy products. Beijing also placed 25 U.S. firms under export and investment restrictions on national security grounds. 10 of these firms were targeted for selling arms to Taiwan. U.S. farmers were hit hard by Trump's first-term trade wars, which cost them about $27 billion in lost export sales and conceded their share of the Chinese market to Brazil. Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins told reporters in Washington that farmers and ranchers would eventually see greater prosperity from Trump's actions, adding, "His message, frankly, to the ag community is trust me." But the tariffs on Mexican and Canadian products could have deeper repercussions for a highly integrated North American economy and signal an end to years of surprising resilience for U.S. growth. Today's reckless decision by the U.S. administration is forcing Canada and the U.S. towards recessions, job losses, and economic disaster, Canadian Chamber of Commerce CEO Candice Lang said in a statement. Even before Trump's tariffs announcement, U.S. data on Monday showed factory gate prices jumped to a nearly 3-year high, suggesting that a new wave of tariffs could soon undercut production. The Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta's GDP Now model showed a stunning shift to a 2.8% U.S. GDP contraction in the first quarter from a 2.3% estimated growth last week. And everyday items affected by tariffs, price hikes predicted to impact more than just imported goods by Fernando Cervantes, USA Today Network. After weeks of vowing to impose tariffs on American neighbors, Mexico and Canada, President Donald Trump's administration made good on its promise Tuesday morning just after midnight. They're going to have a tariff. So what they have to do is build their car plants, frankly, and other things in the United States, in which case they have no tariffs, Trump said at a White House on Monday. Tariffs imposed on goods from Mexico and Canada are expected to increase the prices of goods used by Americans every day. From gas to alcohol to meat and more, economists expect Americans to pay higher prices. Here's what you need to know. Costly for every American. According to a Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta study, the tariffs imposed by Trump could raise consumer prices on everyday retail purchases such as food and beverage items and general merchandise, covering about a quarter of the total consumption basket, by 0.81% to 1.63%. The price hikes are expected to have an impact beyond groceries. According to the Peterson Institute for International Economics, the tariffs could cost the average United States household $1,200 annually. Domestic producers that compete with the newly tariffed imports will increase their prices in line with import price increases, the Institute said. On the other hand, the Tax Policy Center said after-tax income would fall by $930 on average next year. The center said the lowest income 20% of households would be worse off by an average of $170, while the wealthiest quintile by an average of $3,280. Impact on items from Canada. The following common imports from Canada to the U.S., according to the Bureau of Industry and Security and Trading Economics, could be affected by Trump's tariffs. Wood, charcoal, aluminum, iron and steel appliances, cereal, flour, starch, and milk products, rubbers, alcoholic beverages, carpets and other textile floor coverings, wool, animal hair, horsehair yarn, and fabric, umbrellas, walking sticks, seat sticks, whips, cotton, photographic or cinematographic goods, cork products, printed books. Impact on items from Mexico. Items from the U.S. imports from Mexico, according to Trading Economics and the OEC, that could be affected by Trump's tariff plan include cereals, paper products, processed fruits and nuts, tropical fruits, tomatoes, onions, lettuce, cabbage, pickled foods, fruit juice, fertilizers, dairy products, eggs and honey, cotton, beer and hard liquor, coffee, tea, meat and spices, meat, fish and seafood, sauces and seasoning, baked goods, avocados, raw sugar. More expensive foods and drinks. In a poll by the Center for Information and Research on Civic Learning and Engagement at Tufts University, about 40% of voters viewed the economy and jobs as their top issue, finding that young voters prioritizing the economy were more likely to vote for Trump. Consumer prices increased 3% in January from a year earlier, up from 2.9% the previous month, according to the Labor Department's Consumer Price Index. Now, Trump is set to increase prices even further with the tariffs implemented on Tuesday. Canada and Mexico are the United States' largest trading partners. A significant amount of meat, grains, and vegetables are imported from these countries. According to the Canadian government, about 34% of all meat imported into the U.S. comes from their country. On the other hand, according to the USDA, Mexico is a major provider of fresh vegetables to the United States, as 77% of our fresh produce comes from the South. Mexico and Canada rank within the top 4 providers of alcohol for Americans. Mexico, in fact, is the largest importer of beer into the United States, as 18% of all beer consumed in America comes from Mexico, the U.S. Beer Institute said. Pricier gas and cars. Trump originally proposed a 10% tariff on Canadian oil, which equates to a roughly 16-cent increase per gallon, according to Mike Skladoles, head of the U.S. economics at Truist. These tariffs could eventually raise the price of almost everything because companies need fuel to transport their products across the country. Retaliatory actions by the 3 U.S. trade partners are also likely to stir up trouble for American companies. This is a mess, Skladoles said. There are so many unintended consequences. You might see prices go up not just for new cars, but for used ones too, as any additional scarcity in the market often drives more would-be new shoppers to consider used cars, Cars.com's Steph Schrader told USA Today. Cars that depend heavily on imported parts or are fully imported from the affected countries will likely see price hikes first. Also from Washington, administration official to brief Congress on U.S. aid, sources say. Pete Marocco, Deputy Administrator Designate of the U.S. Agency for International Development, will meet with members of Congress on Wednesday to discuss foreign assistance to sources familiar with the plan set on Monday. Marocco will use the roundtable with Democrats and Republicans on the House of Representatives Foreign Affairs Committee to provide an update on the review and reorganization of foreign aid by Republican President Donald Trump's administrations. Thousands of staff have been put on leave and contractors terminated at U.S. aid since Trump began his second term in January, with Trump's billionaire advisor Elon Musk leading a push to shrink the federal government. Democratic members of Congress and a few of Trump's fellow Republicans have raised concern that the foreign aid cuts could lead to hunger, illness, and death around the globe while also diminishing U.S. influence. Critics also say it is illegal for the administration to freeze aid and cut U.S. aid without notifying and consulting Congress. Related lawsuits are making their way through the courts. And from USA Today, Dems say workforce purge help Musk businesses, by Riley Begin. Washington. More than 36 Democratic lawmakers called on President Donald Trump on Monday to fire Doge leader Elon Musk, arguing the new Republican administration has illegally fired dozens of government officials whose agencies were investigating or prosecuting Musk's companies. The lawmakers, led by Senators Elizabeth Warren, Democrat from Massachusetts, and Cory Booker, Democrat from New Jersey, and the top Democrats on the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees, Representatives Jerry Connolly, Democrat from Virginia, and Jamie Raskin, Democrat from Maryland, made their demand in a letter sent hours before the president's first joint address to Congress of his second term Tuesday evening. The administration's removals of agency heads and workers have affected 11 federal agencies, conducting 32 ongoing investigations, complaints, or enforcement actions against Musk's companies, including Tesla, SpaceX, and Neuralink, the lawmakers noted. These firings have removed the exact individuals in our government who would hold Mr. Musk and his companies accountable for following the law and protect everyday Americans from threats to their health, welfare, safety, and economic well-being, they wrote in a letter shared exclusively with USA Today. For example, the National Labor Relations Board has at least a dozen unfair labor practice cases open against Tesla and charged SpaceX with unfair labor practices last year, and the Federal Election Commission oversaw complaints last year that Musk broke campaign finance law. Trump has sought to remove the leaders of both panels. Many of those officials were confirmed by the U.S. Senate and have legal requirements that must be met before they can be removed from office, they wrote, such as notifying Congress before firing inspectors general or providing just cause before firing members of the NLRB. The Democrats' request isn't likely to make inroads with the administration and the Musk-led Department of Government Efficiency, which has fired tens of thousands of federal workers since Trump was sworn in on January 20th. Trump has defended Musk's efforts, arguing that they seek to downsize government by eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse. At his first cabinet meeting last week, Trump joked that aides should throw out any agency head dissatisfied with Musk's work. Some disagree a little bit, but I will tell you for the most part, I think everyone's not only happy, they're thrilled, Trump said. Many of Musk's firings have been met with lawsuits, as have other DOJ efforts to access sensitive personal information from agencies like the Department of Education and the Internal Revenue Service. The public is divided on the cuts, according to recent polling. A CBS News YouGov poll conducted February 26 through 28 found 51% approved of Trump's efforts to cut staff at government agencies and 49% disapproved. In an NPR PBS News Marist poll on February 24th through 26, 55% of respondents said the cuts were doing more harm than good, and 39% had a favorable opinion of Musk. Well, we have reached the halfway point in the reading of the Cape Cod Times Wednesday, March 5th, 2025 edition, and it's time for the obituaries. Our first obituary, John Jack P. McCormick, Brewster. John P. McCormick, Jack to his friends and family, died in his home at age 65 of a rare and aggressive cancer on February 28, 2025. He is survived by his loving wife of almost 38 years, Teresa Terry of Brewster, and his daughter and son. Jack was born in Stoughton, Mass. He grew up in Brockton and moved to Westwood in 1975. He graduated from Xavier Brothers High School, where he was active in several sports, but particularly loved his football experience and the friendships made on and off the field. Jack graduated with honors from the University of Pennsylvania. While he particularly enjoyed his tenure as president of MNDC and was on the varsity team throughout his years at Penn, playing lightweight sprint football. Jack earned his Juris Doctor from University of Notre Dame Law School and spent his second year studying abroad at the Notre Dame London Law Centre. While in London, he was selected for the Great Britain korfball team that competed internationally. In his final year of law school, he was selected for the Notre Dame team that appeared on Wheel of Fortune. He also met Terry at Notre Dame, and they returned to their beloved alma mater for their wedding at Sacred Heart Basilica. Jack began his law career at Lattanzi, Spalding, and Landreth, where he ultimately became a partner and later opened his own law practice in 1997. Terry joined him in 1998 to embark on their next big chapter, McCormick & McCormick. He devoted a significant amount of his practice to participating in CPCS's Bar Advocate program, serving those in need. Jack was on the board of directors of Legal Services for Cape and the Islands for many years and served as the president of Barnstable County Bar Association. He was elected to the Orleans School Committee and served until the family moved to Brewster in 2000. Jack loved traveling and sports and visited all 50 states. Jack will be remembered as a fun-loving guy with many friends from every era of his life. Visitation will be on Friday, March 7th at Nickerson Funeral Home in Orleans from 4 to 6 p.m. A Mass of Christian burial will be held on Saturday, March 8th at Our Lady of the Cape, located at 468 Stony Brook Road, Brewster, at 11 a.m., with viewing at 10:30. Burial at Brewster Memorial Cemetery to follow the funeral. To help raise awareness and in lieu of flowers, donations may be made to the Cholangiocarcinoma Foundation, www.cholangiocarcinoma.org/donate. For online condolences, please visit www.nickersonfunerals.com. Sally B. Hogan, Cape Cod. Sally B. Hogan, 83, passed away peacefully on February 28, 2025, after a period of declining health. She was predeceased by her husband, Walter F. Hogan. Sally was born in Montpelier, Vermont, and attended Christ the King School and Rice Memorial High School in Burlington, Vermont. After graduating from Hickok College in Boston, she worked as an administrative assistant over the years. Her favorite role was in the main office at Matthew Thornton Elementary School in Londonderry, New Hampshire. Sally and Wally retired to Cape Cod in 1998, where she enjoyed volunteering, spending time with family, and traveling. She was a devoted Patriots fan and could not be disturbed on a Sunday afternoon. The family would like to acknowledge the loving care Sally received over the years from Carrie Iggar. We are forever indebted to her for helping to keep our mother comfortable in her home. Visiting hours will be held from 4 to 7 p.m. on Tuesday, March 11th at Chapman Funerals and Cremations, John Lawrence Chapel, Route 28, Marston's Mills. A funeral mass will be celebrated at 11 a.m. on Wednesday, March 12th at Our Lady of Victory Church, 230 South Main Street, Centerville. Burial will follow at Beechwood Cemetery, Centerville. In lieu of flowers, donations may be made to the St. Vincent de Paul Society in care of Our Lady of Victory Church. For notes of comfort to the family, please visit www.chapmanfuneral.com. Marie Elizabeth Terrell Rogers, Brewster. Marie Elizabeth Terrell Rogers, 79 of Brewster, passed away peacefully at home, surrounded by family on Saturday, February 22, 2025. She was born on September 27, 1945, in Boston. She married Philip John Rogers on January 5, 1974. Marie worked as a registered nurse for many years before taking on the role of mom. She was active in many youth sports organizations and driving her son to numerous practices and games. Marie and Phil began their lives together in Westwood, Mass. Before moving to Norfolk. For the past 24 years, they made their home in Brewster, though their most cherished place was their home at Spring Lake in Maine, making wonderful memories with their family and friends. A private celebration of Marie's life will be held with family and friends at a later date. In lieu of flowers, contributions in Marie's name may be made to the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research to help fight and beat this disease. Tribute.michaeljfox.org/tribute-page. Kevin O'Neill to Cuesta. Kevin O'Neill, a beloved brother, husband, father, grandfather, and friend, passed away on March 2nd, 2025, after a long battle with cancer. He was born on August 31st, 1941, and was a proud fourth-generation Cape Codder. His father, Vincent, was the founder of the Hyannis Yacht Club, which sparked his childhood. He loved everything that the Cape had to offer, from hunting and fishing to sailing and swimming, and especially golfing. He will forever be remembered for his enormous heart, quick wit, and generosity. Kevin attended Barnstable schools, where he played football and excelled at baseball, graduating in 1959. He went on to study business at Babson College, and during his time there, he joined the Marine Corps Reserve, serving honorably from 1961 to 1965. Kevin continued his education at Suffolk University in Boston, where he earned his bachelor's degree in business administration. After returning to Cape Cod, Kevin took over a small family insurance company and quickly became a successful entrepreneur. As his business grew through acquisitions and mergers, Dowling and O'Neill grew across Cape Cod, Nantucket, and Martha's Vineyard. He became the managing partner, and in 2005 he sold his company and retired, having built a legacy in the insurance industry. Throughout his career, Kevin's business success led him to take on important roles in the community. He served as chairman of the Town of Barnstable Public Works Commission for 12 years, was on the board of the Barnstable County Bank, and was president of the Cape Cod Insurance Agents Association. He touched countless lives with his kindness and will be greatly missed by all who knew him. Kevin is survived by his wife, Paula, and together they spent 40 wonderful years together. He loved his family dearly, and his commitment to them was unwavering. A passionate golfer, Kevin was a member of the Oyster Harbors Club in Osterville, Massachusetts for 51 years and the Turtle Creek Club in Jupiter, Florida for 25. He spent the past 25 years as a resident of Jupiter, Florida, enjoying many summers back on Cape Cod after his retirement. Services will be private for the family. In lieu of flowers, the family kindly requests that donations be made to your favorite charities, as this is what Kevin would have wanted. Robert Bermudez, Cambridge. The Reverend Dr. Robert Bob Bermudez, 95, of Cambridge, was born at Springfield on January 15, 1930. 6 weeks later, he, with his parents Ralph and Charlotte, and older brother, flew his excess baggage to Puerto Rico, where his parents were Presbyterian missionaries at the Marina Neighborhood House of Mayagaza. He died while in hospice care on January 23, 2025, having served United Church of Christ churches in Hartford, Lorain, Ohio, New Britain, Connecticut, Groton, Connecticut, and Rochester, New York. Dr. Bermudez is survived by his wife, Sally Ruth Brown, and other family members who will greatly miss him. No calling hours. His full obituary may be viewed at www.keithfuneralhome.com. Private ceremony at the convenience of the family. And in lieu of flowers, please consider a donation to Bob's favorite causes, the ACLU, Planned Parenthood, or Palestine Children's Relief Fund. And that concludes the obituaries for the Wednesday, March 5th, 2025 edition of the Cape Cod Times. Now back to local stories. Former Barnstable Stool custodian faces trial, by Rachel Devaney, Cape Cod Times, USA Today Network. A former Barnstable High School custodian will face a jury trial on March 20th in Barnstable District Court in connection with a skirmish with police during a Barnstable High School lockdown in March 2024. The school went on lockdown on March 22nd when a student who was experiencing a mental health crisis climbed onto the school's roof, according to a Barnstable police report. When Gerald Lopes, 64, a custodian at the time, appeared behind the school to throw trash into a dumpster after a student lunch period, Lopes allegedly ignored police warnings to evacuate the area, swore at the police, and said, "I have a job to do," to police officer Matthew Malia, according to police documents. At the trial, Lopes will face charges of resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, and interfering with a police officer, according to court documents. On October 17, 2024, a motion to dismiss the case was filed by Lopes and was denied, according to court documents. Around the time of the incident, Lopes told the Times he faces 2.5 years in prison if found guilty. Lopes told the Times on Wednesday, February 26, that he preferred not to comment about his case. Lopes' attorney, Sean Early, did not return Times calls for comment. What happened to Lopes? During an in-person interview in 2024, Lopes told the Times that he didn't know the school was on lockdown as he conducted his custodial duties surrounding the school lunch period. Another custodian, who Lopes didn't name, was following Lopes out of the cafeteria, also carrying trash. According to Lopes, Malia yelled and swore at the custodian and kicked his trash can. Lopes said he was tackled onto the pallets by Malia and was handcuffed so tightly that the metal bracelet split his skin. Lopes provided photos to the Times of his wrists and arms, which showed cuts and bruises. The injuries, he said, were the result of his encounter with the police. According to the police report, when Malia tried to cuff Lopes, he grabbed wooden pallets located on the loading dock and refused to put his hands behind his back. Lopes was cuffed firmly, according to the police report, but not to impede circulation. I felt attacked. I felt like this entire situation was racially charged, said Lopes, who identifies as Cape Verdean. Was the school on lockdown? The school, according to Lopes, issued no warnings to staff about an emergency situation until after he was arrested. The school is responsible for the safety of students and staff, said Lopes. Lunch was in session and kids and teachers were in the lunchroom at that time, he said. No one in the building even knew what was going on. Barnstable Public School Superintendent Sarah Ahern told the Times in an email that former Principal Elizabeth Friedman issued a communication to faculty and staff to ensure that no one, adults included, went behind the building. The problem, said Lopes, is that the email was sent by Friedman at 11:11 a.m. after he was arrested. Lopes provided a time-stamped screenshot of Friedman's email to the Times. In the same email, Friedman said the situation with the student was not a safety issue. In the police report provided to the Times by the Barnstable District Court Clerk's Office, the student's name wasn't released. According to a public records request provided to the Times on May 3rd, Malia and school resource officer Dennis Stamfel weren't using police body cameras during the incident. Lopes resigns. Following the incident and his arrest, Lopes told the Times that he was pressured into filing his resignation with the town. The school should have put me on administrative leave until the investigation and the court process is over, he said. That's what they normally do. In our next story, Cape man barred from gun ownership pleads guilty to owning rifle by Desiree Nickfarjum, Cape Cod Times, USA Today Network. A Hyannis man pleaded guilty to being a felon in possession of a firearm on March 3rd, according to Office of Leah Foley, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts. In September 2021, Donald Pina, 52, was found in possession of a Chinese SKS 762 rifle, and prior felony convictions prohibited possession of firearms, according to the statement. In November 2022, Pina and co-defendant Ryan Diefenbach were indicted by a federal grand jury. Diefenbach was sentenced to 6 years in prison, followed 3 years of supervised release in October 2024. Due to multiple previous felony convictions for heroin trafficking in 2007, 2013, and 2014, Pina is considered an armed career criminal prohibited from possessing guns, according to a November 2022 release from the U.S. Attorney's Office. The sentence for a felon in possession of a firearm includes up to 10 years in prison, up to 3 years of supervised release, and up to $250,000 in fines, according to statement. Pina's sentencing date is scheduled for June 4th by U.S. Senior District Judge William G. Young. And man who drove into Dennis police cruiser to pay costs, town says, by Desiree Nickfarjum, Cape Cod Times, USA Today Network. A 20-year-old Harwich man will be financially responsible for damages he caused to a Dennis police car in a crash on February 25th, according to Dennis Police. The damaged police car, a 2023 Chevy Tahoe, is town property. Any repairs or replacements will not be paid for by taxpayers, but by the at-fault party, according to Dennis Deputy Chief Cleve Daniels. The Town of Dennis Insurance Company, Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Association, has not finalized the cost of damages to the car, according to Dennis Police Lieutenant Peter Benson. Just looking at it, it'd take a lot to put it back together, said Benson. He said Dennis Police pay approximately $40,000 to $45,000 for a patrol car like the Chevy Tahoe and the equipment inside. Our mechanic here says been salvaging anything he can from the car, Benson said. Usually when police upgrade or replace patrol cars, they will transfer usable equipment from the car, such as the radio or computer, he said. Driver facing charges of driving under the influence. The Harwich man faces charges for driving under the influence of liquor, negligent driving, failure to stay within marked lanes, and speeding after police say his vehicle smashed into the police cruiser the night of Tuesday, February 25th on Lower County Road near Lighthouse Road in West Dennis. The Harwich man and the officer driving the cruiser were taken to Cape Cod Hospital for treatment of non-life-threatening injuries, according to a statement from Dennis Police. The two vehicles were traveling in opposite directions around 10:15 p.m. when the Harwich man's car drifted into oncoming traffic, police said. The officer at the wheel of the cruiser steered away to avoid a head-on collision, police said. Because of the damage from the crash, the two officers initially had a hard time getting out of the cruiser, police said. Eventually, they managed to climb out and checked on the driver. The driver was to be summoned to Orleans District Court, according to police statement. In our next story, Barnstable Housing Authority home burned Tuesday morning, by Desiree Nick Farjum, Cape Cod Times, USA Today Network. Around 4:41 a.m. Tuesday morning, March 4th, Hyannis Fire Department responded to a house fire at 47 Woolley Road. No one was found in the house and no injuries were reported. Upon arrival, firefighters reported fire coming out of the front left corner of the roof, according to Fire Captain Ryan Clough. The first attempt to control the fire from within the home was called off due to the condition of the building, he said. Firefighters used 3 hose lines to control the fire, 2 on the outside of the home and 1 for inside the building. The fire was under control by 5:19 a.m., according to Clough. Firefighters stayed at the scene for 2 more hours after the fire was controlled. The property is owned by the Barnstable Housing Authority. The fire department report did not indicate how many people occupy the home. The family was reported to be away during the time of the fire, according to Clough. No assistance from Red Cross was reported, but the residents will be displaced due to serious fire damage. The origin of the fire is still unknown, and an investigation is ongoing, according to Clough. In our next story, Thorough Review, Police Academy Leaders in Falmouth Suspended, State Investigates, by Zane Razak, Cape Cod Times. 2 leaders at the new Police Academy in Falmouth have been suspended amid an investigation into allegations of misconduct, according to the state. East Falmouth Police Academy Director Christopher J. Donnellan and Academy Coordinator Edward A. Doon have been suspended. Doon was Falmouth Police Chief from 2013 to 2023. The State Municipal Training Committee began probing concerns regarding inappropriate conduct by Academy staff at the East Falmouth Academy on February 26th, according to a March 3rd letter from leaders of the community to police chiefs. The Academy is at 71 Technology Park Drive. The school offers entry-level training for police officers, veteran officer intern in-service, and specialized training programs, according to the state. All staff instructors were temporarily replaced on February 27th. The Municipal Police Training Committee is conducting a thorough review of procedures and practices to ensure that all activities have a direct nexus to a specific learning objective, according to the letter. The letter did not include specific information about the allegation. We take any allegations of misconduct seriously and are fully committed to conducting a thorough and impartial investigation, the letter from Municipal Police Training Committee Executive Director Rick Rathbun and Deputy Executive Director Amy Fenico states. Any form of hazing, harassment, or misconduct is unequivocally unacceptable and goes against our core values of integrity, respect, and professionalism. And as a reminder, you are listening to the March 5th, 2025 edition of the Cape Cod Times. In the Cape and Islands section, 24 units of housing underway at former improper Bostonian site, by Zane Razak, Cape Cod Times, USA Today Network. More than a century ago, the stately 3-story mansard roof house and barn that stood on Route 28 in Dennisport belonged to wealthy businessman Joseph L. Baker. The house was torn down in 1945, according to the Dennis Historical Society, but the barn later housed the improper Bostonian nightclub before its December razing. Now, years later, plans are underway to transform 626 Main Street into a 24-unit housing development with some affordable apartments and retail space. All of us enjoyed coming off the beach on Saturday afternoon at the improper Bostonian and going to the happy hours, and we're going to sincerely miss that, said developer Robert DeMarco. But we're very excited to add these 24 units and contribute to the vibrancy of Dennisport. Design nods to state's historic past. Architect Rick Finuccio said designs referenced the site's past, saying he scoured historic photos in preparation. They believe the improper Bostonian was constructed around 1900. The mansard roof that we're bringing back on a fairly large section of the new building is a very intentional historical nod to that Joseph Baker home that was on the property, said Finuccio. Passion Project. Finuccio was the founding partner of the Catalyst architecture firm in Yarmouth before selling his interest in 2019 and described this as a first passion project. The chance to develop a previously disturbed space in the heart of historic Dennisport especially appealed to him, said Finuccio. I didn't want to go after a raw piece of land that didn't have proper zoning and deal with that 34-year-long scenario, he said. Developing walkable, village-centered housing is such a key part of revitalizing these streets. History of project. Finuccio purchased the property in 2022 and spent the last 2 years crafting a development plan, design work, and securing permits to prepare for construction. He then searched for a financial partner. In January of last year, Finuccio met Robert DeMarco and Michael Kelly of Braintree real estate firm Campanelli. The biggest appeal to me was their depth of experience. They've done this for a long time. They have a general contracting arm of their business, and that was basically going to allow self-performing the construction, said Finuccio. In a nutshell, that's the only thing that made this project really workable financially. The Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod is the lender for construction and permanent financing. DeMarco, Kelly, and another partner, Michelle Kelly, are also the new owners of the legendary Sunday School ice cream shop in Dennisport. They met when working there as teenagers and purchased the parlor and its sister shop in Harwichport nearly 45 years later. More details on housing and retail. The design takes into consideration that the property has two fronts. You do have two facades. You have the Main Street facade and you have the Upper County Road facade, said Finuccio. So in a sense, two front doors. When we designed the building, we had to make the back facade as attractive as the front, with a very distinct entry point and fairly robust landscaping. 26 parking spaces and day-to-day entry will be accessed from the Upper County Road side, said Finuccio, a function of the site being long and narrow. The project will include a Main Street-facing storefront of at least 600 square feet. Finuccio said they envision that space housing a bank with a walk-up ATM or office. He said food service businesses could likely not be accommodated due to the septic system and its design. We can accommodate really a small owner-operator in retail, or it could even be a professional office. The uses are pretty wide in this district that are allowed by the town, said Finuccio. So it's really who can accommodate their business in 600 square feet and not generate the food waste and requirement for grease tanks and so forth. Breaking down of housing units. Plans call for 24 new apartments, including 6 units affordable for households earning 80% of the area median income. The market rate side will feature 15 one-bedrooms and 3 two-bedrooms. The affordable units will be made up of 5 one-bedrooms and 1 two-bedroom. All first-floor units will have private garden spaces for a patio, and all second-floor units will have a deck, so each apartment comes with some outdoor space. The building will also come with on-site storage and a bike storage room. Expected to be done in January. The project is estimated to be completed in January 2026. After the December demolition, the site was cleaned up and site preparation went on for several months. Framing should start relatively soon, along with the under-slab piping for all underground plumbing systems. To be able to deliver brand new units and to have those people walk to the village and make the village more vibrant, that's what the town of Dennis was looking for when they rezoned it, and that's why we think this building is going to be very popular, said DeMarco. And Jaws turns 50 this year. Weeks of events planned at Martha's Vineyard by Seth Jacobson, USA Today Network. 50 years ago, a movie about a man-eating shark took the world by storm. Jaws, the Steven Spielberg classic released in 1975, was filmed on Martha's Vineyard from May through October 1974 and went on to reach legendary film status. The score for the movie was written and conducted by Boston-based John Williams, who scored several blockbusters over the past few decades. To make the milestone, the Edgartown Board of Trade is hosting a week of events on Martha's Vineyard in June, coinciding when the movie was released. Here's what to know. When was Jaws released in theaters around the country? It was released on June 20th, 1975. What are some events planned for the 50th anniversary? Here are some of the events planned for Amity Week. Several nights of a meet, greet, and mingle party at the Wharf Pub in Edgartown will include a meet and greet with Jeffrey Voorhees, who played Alex Kintner in the film, and other special guests. Drink like Quint, beer tasting at Rosewater Wine and Spirits. In the movie, Quint famously drank Narragansett beer. There will be several days of tastings of Narragansett's Jaws lager. On June 29th, there will be a Barks and Sharks, a Jaw-inspired doggy costume meetup for people to bring their dogs in costume. There will be meet and greets with Martha's Vineyard residents who were part of the movie's productions. Tours of filming locations will be held in partnership with local tour operators. The Martha's Vineyard Museum will be hosting an exhibition with photographs, oral histories, and movie props from the film's production. Boston Pops Jaws Concert. Off-island, the celebrations are happening in the state. The Boston Pops will mark the 50th anniversary of Jaws by hosting a showing of the movie accompanied by a live orchestra playing the soundtrack at Symphony Hall in Boston, located at 301 Massachusetts Avenue. Performances, showings of Jaws will happen Friday, May 9th and Saturday, May 10th. Both shows will be held at 7:30. Ticket prices range from $50 to $122, and there are still plenty of tickets available for both shows. You can purchase tickets at the Boston Pops website. What are some spots in the first Jaws film that can be recognized? If you head to Martha's Vineyard for Amity Week, you can visit some of the spots where the movie filmed. The first movie was filmed mostly on this island. Many of the places can still be visited. They include the town center, the site where Chief Brody, played by Roy Scheider, gets materials for beach closed signs at the junction of Water and Main Streets in Edgartown, a town on Martha's Vineyard. The ferry launch. In the north section of Edgartown at the end of Daggett Street, the ferry to Chappaquiddick Island can be found. This is where the mayor of Amity, played by Murray Hamilton, has a talk with Brody about the potential for disaster and revealing the recent shark attacks to the public. Joseph A. Sylvia State Beach, north of Edgartown near the town of Oak Bluffs, is the beach where swimmers were panicked by a shark attack on a boy named Alex Kintner, who perishes in the film when he is swimming in the ocean on a raft. And the American Legion Memorial Bridge. In the movie, the shark swims under a bridge to what was supposed to be a safe inlet. This bridge, located by Sylvia State Beach, is where the shark swims. And from the USA Today Network, granola bars have been recalled. Here's what kind, by Seth Jacobson. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, has updated a voluntary recall issued on granola bars in December. Riverside Natural Foods, Inc. is voluntarily recalling certain batches of made good granola bars due to the potential presence of a piece of metal in the product, which, if consumed, may result in a safety hazard, a release from the FDA stated in December. The FDA just announced the recall has been updated to Class 2 incident. The FDA issues a Class 2 recall when a product has a low risk of doing harm, but still has a chance to cause adverse health effects, according to the FDA website. What kind of granola bars are being recalled? The FDA stated that it's the Made Good brand of granola bars in question. According to a release from the FDA, specific products impacted by this recall include the following Made Good products: chocolate chip granola bars, mixed berry granola bars, strawberry granola bars, cookies and cream granola bars, chocolate banana granola bars, chocolate drizzled birthday cake granola bars, chocolate drizzled cookie crumble granola bars, and chocolate drizzled vanilla granola bars. Where were the granola bars distributed? The FDA stated that the granola bars were produced between January and November 2024 and distributed throughout Canada, United States, and other international markets. Is the Made Good brand distributed in Massachusetts? Yes, the brand is available in grocery stores in the Bay State. Made Good products are sold in many stores, including Target, Walmart, Whole Foods, and Wegmans, according to the FDA. They are also available online at Amazon and Made Good's official site. Has anyone gotten sick from the granola bars? According to the Made Good company website, there have been no reports of injury regarding the granola bars. And from USA Today Network and Reuters, Tesla charging stations found engulfed in flames in Massachusetts. Authorities in Littleton, Massachusetts have launched an investigation into fires at several Tesla charging stations that they believe were intentionally set. According to a news release, members of the local police and fire departments responded to a blaze at a shopping center on Monday, about 35 miles from Boston. At the scene, officials discovered several Tesla charging stations were engulfed in flames, heavy, dark smoke. The incident comes amid a growing trend of vandals targeting Tesla dealerships and drivers, seemingly due to Elon Musk's political ties to President Donald Trump. And that concludes our reading today of the Cape Cod Times, Wednesday, March 5th, 2025 edition. We'd like to thank you for listening and have a great day.